to it just like any other game, and obviously it's a heck of a challenge for us, and trying to defend that offense. So that's been the main focus.
Can you talk about being on both sides of an SEC rivalry like this? It's kind of unusual.
Yeah, it's unusual, but you know, you just go about your business and trying to prepare the kids, and you recognize the importance of the game. You recognize the great tradition of it. You know, being on both sides of it, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to get the kids, you know, trying to get the players to execute, and you really focus on preparation. So that's been the main focus.
So some players have said maybe you guys are a little more intense this week. Do you think that's the case at all, or do you try to just treat it like any other week?
It's like any other week. I mean, those are kids. They're gonna try and feed off of whatever's being said out there, you know, by anybody. I don't know. I really don't read into it. I don't know. But it's just, again, it's just getting ready for the next opponent.
Does it surprise you at all, I guess, that even though he's shown some success in stopping it, that people still look like they're almost picking on Cam Sutton in games, or they keep going that way, and it looks like no matter how many plays he makes, they're going to kind of still keep going at the freshman?
Well, he knows it, and we know it. Obviously, we have a young team, especially in the secondary, and he's, you know, he knows that he's going to be, they're going to throw the ball at him, and that's why the main focus has been to improve every day. Everything that we do every week, you know, is to get better at some fundamental or some technique or some awareness of the situation, whether it's a down and distance or a formation or things that they do really well. But at the end of the day, he's got to come back to knowing that you know, I've got to be really solid in my fundamentals, understand the defense, know where your help is, know where the strengths and weaknesses are, and he does such a good job with that. You know, Cam's a smart player. You know, he's well more advanced than a lot of the young guys, you know, from a standpoint of understanding the game and the anticipation of what's about to happen.
In terms of that, do you think he gets more confident kind of every week without letting it go too far? I mean, a couple people in the past week, national guys have said he's one of the most productive or best true freshmen in college football so far this season.
Well, again, he is. You got to know his personality. You know, he's kind of really consistent. He's not really an up and down kind of personality. He's not a very vocal guy. We're trying to get that out of him, but that's him. You know, he's when you think he doesn't have a lot of fire in him or a competitive side of him, he does, and he's just quiet. But again, he's a smart player who's an athletic player. You're talking about a kid that was a 3-sport star in his high school. That helps. That helps him. You know, he's played all those 3 sports very well, and you can see that competitiveness of him, you know, in the games.
It's a little bit different these days, right? Because you see so much specialization in kids playing a sport year-round. But if he's technically more sound than a lot of freshmen, despite, you know, not spending as much time on football as they did, that's kind of an odd combination.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
You look at 11 interceptions. How much of that is you coach kids how to specifically about interceptions, or just coach them to be in the right place at the right time?
I think there's a little bit of both, or maybe some other things. You know, I mean, you got to be a little bit lucky too. You know, a lot of that could come from pressure. We've had some interceptions from pressure. We've had some interceptions from good awareness and anticipating of what's about to happen. There's been a couple of ones where there have been bad throws. You know, but the thing that we focus the most on is just play hard, have a great anticipation of what's about to happen to get yourself in a position for those plays. But I think it's a combination of a lot of things. You know, 11 guys playing together. We've dropped a few too, so you know, but we got to continue to do that, whether it's interceptions or whether it's, you know, fumbles. You know, is to create turnovers, because those are momentum changers and obviously momentum killers when it happens to us.
Brian Randolph, all 3 of his picks in the end zone. What does that say, or why? Any trend to that?
Well, I think we do a great job. You know, we practice it a lot. You got to practice red zone. Actually, we'd like to practice it even more. But I think having a good awareness of what they do down there, and with our defensive calls, again. There have been a couple of them where he's made some really great plays, and other ones obviously that there was pressure and the ball was thrown a little bit quicker. It's really a combination of all of it. You know what I mean? You got to have pressure to generate those turnovers too.
Yeah. Are you surprised at all to have as many? I know they're not all DBs, but most of them are. You got a bunch of young guys playing.
Well, I'd really, again, we have a long way to go. There's obviously a lot of room for improvement. We're not happy with some of the things that have happened to us either, so it keeps us on the edge. It keeps us focused. This game that we're playing, you're talking about, we've already played some games like this year, but when you have a great quarterback in there like Aaron Murray, you've got great running backs, you've got great wide receivers, and you're basically playing a three-headed horse, so to speak. So they've got our attention, and we've got to do a good job of executing our defense because we're going to have our hands full.
Two more.
Foreman has played less over the past couple of games. What's kind of going on with him? Has he just maybe hit a wall because of his freshman year, or is he having a hard time adjusting?
Again, there's guys that go through the process a little bit quicker, whether that's where they come from the standpoint of their scheme or their school, or everybody's different, but he's making strides. He has gotten better each and every day. I just said that, I actually mentioned it to him today, off of yesterday's practice. There's some things that he is actually improving on, which is good, and they earn those reps out there in practice. They earn it, for the games. So he's coming along. But again, when you have two guys that are playing really well, you kind of it's hard for you to take them off the field too.
Really, going back to Cam, how much did you guys recruit him when you were at Auburn last year, and maybe when you got here, or how much did you recruit him?
I've always loved him. I've always wanted him when I was in Auburn. Again, the things that turned me on the most about him was, again, that he played 3 sports. He was a starter in all of them. Again, he's a competitive kid. Every time you talk to somebody about him, they said nothing but praised him and talked about how well of a team guy he was, how smart he was, how athletic he was, and so again, we recruited him.
Where do you think his confidence is? I know he had a couple of, Alabama took some shots at him in the end zone, and he kind of broke those passes up, and he talked about some of the things he did against Florida. Where do you think his confidence is right now?
I think it's pretty good. I think it's high. He had 3 PBUs this last ball game. 2 of them were in the end zone. That would have been touchdowns if he doesn't make a play. So I think it's pretty good. That's the life of a corner. When you got the mojo going, the key is to keep it, because they're going to keep on coming after you.
It's been fun to work alongside Coach Jansen again after kind of a 3-year hiatus. And what is it like working with him, and the different dynamic where I know you've had different roles? Sometimes you've been the coordinator, sometimes he's been. How has the dynamic changed?
It's really easy when you're football coaches. When you're a teacher, and you guys believe in the same philosophies, or you believe in the same schemes or the fundamentals, so it's kind of easy to work together. Obviously, we've been doing it for a long time. We've been friends for a long time, so that's no different than a lot of staffs. Where you can see people that know each other. They understand what they want, what they expect. So it's been a great working relationship. So it makes it a lot easier.
Was Aaron there at all when you were there?
Yes.
Did he play scout team? Do you remember anything about?
Yeah, I remember him really well. One of the best stories I can tell you about Aaron Murray is being at a state championship game, and he was injured his senior year. And I'm not give out his injury, but he was not supposed to play. He had somehow targeted and found people that would let him play if they made it to the state championship game. And being there with our staff and watching him perform on one leg and win the state championship told me a lot of things. Highly competitive, team guy, athletically really good, gifted. He's got a great arm. His awareness, great leader. So yeah, we know what to expect on Saturday. Aaron's got a great family. Obviously, we were there a part of the recruiting of it. But obviously, it's kind of neat to see him blossom into the player that he's become. And we always knew what kind of person he was, but it's kind of neat to see him play really well. Hopefully, he may not play that well this Saturday. I don't know. Maybe he gets sick.
Was Mark Rick a wild roommate?
Excuse me?
Was Mark Rick a wild roommate at college?
I wouldn't know that. It was in my room.
Oh, okay.
No, he wasn't.
Some bad information.
Yeah.
How much more complex or kind of college defenses than they were even 5, 10 years ago? Because I know, this week Georgia plays that 3-4 kind of base, but everyone does so much spreading out on offense versus more complex stuff on defense. How much different is football now in that way?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
In terms of the complexities of defenses these days, you've been a defensive coach in college football for a while now. How much more complex are things than they were 5, 10 years ago in terms of?
It's become complex. I don't know if it's become it's become a little bit more stressful because of what the offense are doing. It doesn't really matter if you're a 3-4 defense or a 4-3 defense. It's really what the offenses are doing now. From the tempo offenses where they're going really fast to the athleticism that you're trying to defend in these spread offenses. How good the quarterbacks are, how good the running backs are, how good the wide receivers. I think that you got to recruit really well on defense. You have to recruit those athletic kids that can run. And where you get into trouble is when not having those guys to counter the guys on offense. So I don't think 3-4 or 4-3 doesn't really matter what you run. You got to have the players to defend the guys on offense. And I'm talking about the skill set.
Do you have to recruit maybe more defensive backs? Do you have to maybe recruit a few more DBs than you would have had to before because of the way the game's changing that way?
I wouldn't say that, but you definitely have to have guys that can run. I'm talking about the linebacker position. You can see that the defenses that are able to defend more consistently against those tempo offenses or spread offenses, the ones that can run the best. Because you're not going to be perfect, you're going to make mistakes, but you can overcome the mistakes by your speed and your size. That's what helps you.
Willie John said that he doesn't tell Cam teams are going to pick on him. You tell him that he's
every day.
Every day. Is he kind of like bring it on? Is that kind of
every day? He doesn't really say that, but he doesn't really say much. And again, I say that to everybody in there, but obviously, him being a young player, there's only one way to stop that. Just make plays. Just make plays. Keep making plays.
Really, in a closet or a door somewhere, do you still have Georgia stuff?
Well, the thing that I'll say to you is my daughters both graduated from there. So again, we've had some great memories. The 9 years that I was there, we're talking about the recruitment of a lot of great players. I've got a lot of great relationships with coaches on the staff and also ex-players that played there. So that's never going to go away. Again,
ask Jans, will there be any trash talking if y'all win? If you got buddies you'll come on?
Well, there's a lot of trash talking, period. It doesn't really matter if you're winning or losing.